This video is the final episode in the series about the UFO encounters known as the Nikoro Incident, experienced by Yoshihiro Fujiwara. If you haven't seen Part 1 and Part 2 yet, please check them out using the links in the description. In this final chapter, we'll dive into the very core of the Nikoro Incident. After becoming a UFO pilot and being given a craft of his own, Fujiwara joined forces with other Japanese contactees to construct an underground base beneath the Hidaka mountain range in Hokkaido. From there, for decades, he carried out missions assigned by the Summon Call Interplanetary Union. According to Fujiwara, their main mission was to prevent natural disasters, especially earthquakes, from becoming excessively destructive. He and the other pilots would fly directly into fault lines that could trigger major quakes, enter the interiors of volcanoes, and even dive down to undersea faults. Using Summon Call's technology, they would cool magma, ease the pressure along fault lines, and carry out other interventions to reduce the impact of impending disasters. Fujiwara said that these craft existed in a kind of plasma state, allowing them to pass through rock and even magma without resistance. All of this, he claimed, was done to protect the Earth and humanity from unnecessary catastrophes. However, there was also a rule. Disasters that were meant to happen were not to be prevented. In other words, within the limits of what was permitted, Fujiwara and his team were literally putting their bodies on the line in UFOs, working to soften the blow of planetary upheavals. And while the Summon Call Union itself could not intervene directly, it was apparently allowed to act through human contactees like Fujiwara. In Dr. Hideo Seki's book Higher Dimensional Science, it's written that Fujiwara rode on these craft more than 350 times in the 20 years following 1974. But Taihei Takisawa, who became close to Fujiwara in the 2010s, around 20 years after Dr. Seki's book was published in 1996, believes that the true number is far higher. Takisawa estimates that over the course of his life, Fujiwara may have boarded UFOs more than 1,000 times. While Fujiwara and his fellow contactees were carrying out these limited interventions to prevent the collapse of Earth and human civilization, their long relationship with Summon Call also produced a number of interesting stories. According to Fujiwara, the Summon Call Interplanetary Union is an alliance of roughly 800 planets inhabited by advanced intelligent beings. Their civilization is said to be more than 8,000 years ahead of Earth's. Summon Call's region of space is located about 2.5 billion light-years from Earth, and he claimed that distance could be traversed by their craft in around 6 minutes. Within the Union, there is no such thing as money or human-style legal systems. Instead, they are said to have highly developed spiritual awareness and an absolute form of love, allowing them to maintain an ideal, harmonious society. Interestingly, traveling by UFO to Summon Call's territory apparently requires a series of transfers. It looks like the small craft used in Earth's vicinity are not suited for traveling all the way to a galaxy 2.5 billion light-years away. Fujiwara said that the Moon serves as one of the main transfer stations used by many extraterrestrial civilizations. While its surface appears pockmarked with craters, he claimed that deep inside the Moon there are multiple bases. There, not only extraterrestrials but also humans are present. People from many different countries, all living and working together. On Earth, those same nations may be in conflict, but on the Moon, these people cooperate side by side, forming a kind of Earth community beyond borders. Naturally, these humans are also contactees, chosen in the same way Fujiwara was. Some might be surprised to hear that even UFOs need connections and transfer points. Fujiwara explained that Earth itself is covered by an energetic grid, and you don't just fly out of the atmosphere from anywhere. There are specific points along this grid where it's easier to move into space. The route from Earth to the Moon uses these energy flows, and the same principle applies to routes leading to other galaxies. By following these currents and tunnel-like dimensional structures, travel becomes far more efficient. According to Fujiwara, after reaching the Moon, the next step for leaving the solar system is a base located on one of Saturn's moons. From there, craft head outward, beyond the solar system. He also said that while traveling through this grid network, it was common to pass close to other UFOs. During those moments, pilots could sense, through spiritual energy, who was at the controls of the other craft. Surprisingly, Fujiwara claimed that many of those pilots were children. He often sensed young beings piloting ships along these routes. Of course, by the time those children grow up, they may no longer consciously remember such experiences. Fujiwara once asked the beings of Summon Call why he had been chosen in the first place. In response, they showed him that his family line was descended from the ancient Fujiwara clan, which dates back to Japan's Heian period, over 1,000 years ago. This lineage, he was told, has long produced UFO contactees. In the Heian era, there were already Fujiwara contactees working behind the scenes of the imperial court, in communication with extraterrestrials and carrying out various missions. Genetically, Fujiwara was said to be quite similar to one of those powerful ancient contactees, and it was for that reason that he was chosen again in this lifetime. According to Fujiwara, his abilities were not limited to telepathy and psychic powers. If he stared into someone's face, he could see that person's future as a kind of inner movie. He was also able to trigger the awakening of latent abilities in others. Over the years, many people came to him seeking help with psychic development or future readings. Among them, he said, was a very famous magician, a performer almost everyone in Japan would recognize. Publicly, this person presented everything as stage magic, but according to Fujiwara, he already possessed a degree of genuine psychic ability and simply disguised it as magic tricks. Fujiwara asked Summon Call telepathically whether he was allowed to unlock more of this magician's potential. The answer was yes. The magician had a role to play. So Fujiwara helped further awaken his abilities, after which the man became even more successful and widely known. Perhaps some of the world's magicians really do possess unusual abilities hidden beneath the surface of their acts. After all these stories, what is the single most important message that the Summon Call wants to convey? Fujiwara said it is this: if things continue as they are, not only human society, but life on Earth itself could be headed toward destruction. To prevent that outcome, Summon Call is quietly watching over humanity and supporting us through Earth-born contactees. However, they say the most important task is not simply easing earthquakes or calming volcanic eruptions. What truly matters is that human beings awaken to a cosmic consciousness. If the collective consciousness of humanity changes, Summon Call can work more closely with us and help build a more harmonious world. That, they say, is why they are encouraging a shift in awareness among ordinary people through contactees scattered across the planet. So, what do you think? We've now reached the end of this 3-part exploration of the Nikoro Incident. But in reality, there are still many more stories that could be told. In any case, it seems clear that this was never just a local incident. If Fujiwara's account is true, it was one small part of a much larger operation aimed at the protection and evolution of humanity. Whether this story is literally true or not is something no one can say for certain. But one thing is beyond doubt. As a species, We urgently need to refine our collective consciousness, build a society that values life and nature, and learn to live in a more balanced way on this planet. And who knows? Perhaps as we do so, we are already being quietly watched and supported by countless beings out there in the universe.